The moment I stepped into the office, the CEO's wife slapped me. Before I could even process the pain, a stack of photos of the affair was thrown in my face. "You slut. How dare you sleep with my husband? I'll make sure you never work in New York again. Where is legal? Tell HR to fire her immediately. I want her blacklisted everywhere." My best friend, Chloe Sterling, stood nearby with red, teary eyes. She looked at me with deep disappointment. "Stella, I can't believe you're the mistress who seduced the boss. No wonder I saw you at that hotel last time." I was completely stunned. I was single. How could I possibly be a mistress? Just as I opened my mouth to defend myself, a series of glowing chat comments suddenly flashed before my eyes. Like a live stream. "Chloe is the real mistress. She is framing you. She stole your ID card to book those hotel rooms. She even bribed the hotel receptionist. If you say it wasn't me right now, she will pull out fake video evidence to destroy you. It's promotion season. If you get fired, the department manager position is hers. Defending yourself won't work. Cry. Start crying right now. Pretend you were drugged and assaulted. Play the victim." I immediately choked back my explanation. In a split second, tears welled up in my eyes. I looked at Chloe with gratitude. "Chloe, thank you." Under the bewildered stares of everyone in the room, I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, and put it on speakerphone. "I'd like to report a crime. I was drugged and assaulted. I have physical evidence and witnesses." "Stella, are you crazy? You're filing a false police report just to escape the consequences?" I sidestepped Chloe as she tried to snatch my phone, staring straight into her eyes. "I have absolutely no memory of what happened in those photos. And what you just said about seeing me at the hotel, I don't remember a single thing about that either. Unless I was drugged and lost consciousness or literally brainwashed. Is there any other explanation?" I hung up the phone. I pulled back a chair and sat down calmly. Victoria Harrington, the CEO's wife, let out a cold laugh. She slammed her limited edition Hermes bag heavily onto the conference table. "Ella Vance, stop putting on a show. Do you really think calling the cops will clean your name? After you seduced my husband? Whether my name is clean or not is for the police to decide." I replied, looking directly at her. "Since you came here today to catch a mistress, wouldn't a full police investigation be better for you anyway? That way, you won't be manipulated by someone else and blame the wrong person." Chloe's eyes grew redder, her voice trembling. "Stella, how can you still be so shameless at a time like this? I truly regret being your friend for all these years." She turned around to face Victoria and the other executives in the room. "Mrs. Harrington, everyone. I actually noticed something was wrong a long time ago. Stella's spending habits have been way too high lately. It completely exceeds her salary as a regular employee. Last month, I saw her checking into the Intercontinental Hotel with my own eyes." As she spoke, she opened a video on her phone and projected it onto the large screen in the conference room. The video angle was clearly from the hotel lobby security camera. In the footage, a woman wearing my limited edition trench coat and my custom star-themed bracelet was standing at the counter. After checking in, the woman took the room key and walked into the elevator. Although the camera only caught her back and a slight side profile, with that outfit and body shape, anyone would swear it was me. "Where did you get this video?" I asked, looking confused. "I got it from a friend who works at the hotel," Chloe said proudly. The executives looked at me with immediate disgust. "Wow, I couldn't tell. She acts so innocent at work, but she's so wild behind our backs." I didn't rush to defend myself. I just quietly stared at the screen. The trench coat was mine. The bracelet was mine. But during that exact weekend, my ID card had indeed gone missing. For a few days later, it mysteriously reappeared in my office desk drawer. I turned my head to look at Chloe. "Since you have the security footage, please hand it over to the police when they arrive. Identity theft and drug-facilitated sexual assault are major felonies. This video is crucial evidence." Chloe's face stiffened. She gritted her teeth. "You're still lying. You booked that room yourself. There was no drug or assault." I smiled and asked, if I were sober and sneaking out to meet a married man, would I be that stupid? Would I brazenly use my own ID card to register at the front desk base, begging to get caught? Victoria frowned, a sliver of doubt flashing in her eyes. Chloe immediately raised her voice, cutting in, "Who knows what goes on in your twisted mind? Maybe you did it on purpose. Is that so?" My voice remained flat. "Then let the police find out who that woman really is. The police won't frame an innocent person, and they certainly won't let a criminal go." Just then, the conference room doors were pushed open. Two uniformed police officers walked in who called 911. The lead officer, Detective Carter, scanned the room with a sharp gaze. I immediately stood up and raised my hand. "I did, officer." I pointed to the photos scattered on the table, and then to the videos still playing on the big screen. I explained the entire situation to Detective Carter. From beginning to end, Detective Carter's face turned serious. He carefully placed the photos into an evidence bag. "Aside from these photos, do we have any other leads?" Chloe bit her lip and stepped forward. "Officer, don't listen to her. She's just trying to cover up her guilt." She pointed at the screen and shouted. "This is the video of her using her own ID to book a room at the hotel. She wasn't drugged. She was perfectly sober when she went to sleep with our boss." Detective Carter looked at the screen, then at Chloe. "Where did you get this footage?" "I got it from a friend at the hotel front desk." Detective Carter gave her a stern look and held out his hand. "Hand over the original video file and your phone." Chloe's face turned pale. Reluctantly, she handed over her phone. I immediately spoke up. "Officer, I request a forensic analysis of this video. At the same time, I want to submit my dashcam footage, my apartment building security log, and my phone's GPS data from that day." Chloe let out a cold snort, seemingly prepared. "That was a weekend, and your apartment building had a power outage, so the cameras weren't working. You could easily alter your dashcam and GPS yourself. Did you plan all of this beforehand?" She turned to the detective, her tone confident. "Officer, she definitely snuck out during that time." I ignored her provocation and continued addressing the detective. "I request the police to track this woman's exact movements." Detective Carter nodded and instructed the younger officer behind him. "Get the high-definition footage from the hotel lobby, hallways, and parking garage for that day. Verify the ID number used for the room, the key card logs, and the payment account." Right then the door was pushed open again. Liam Harrington, the CEO, walked in a rush. Seeing the police, he froze, his footsteps halting. His eyes locked with Chloe's for a brief second. The moment Victoria saw him, she rushed over and slapped him across the face. "Liam Harrington, you still have the nerve to show up? Look at what you've done." Liam's head snapped to the side. He took a deep breath, then he turned to look at me, his face suddenly twisting into a mask of pain and betrayal. "Victoria, I'm sorry." He pointed at me, grinding his teeth. "Elevens kept seducing me that day. She blackmailed me into going to that hotel. I wanted to reject her, but she drugged my water. By the time I woke up, the damage was already done." The room erupted into whispers. The high and mighty CEO was actually throwing me under the bus, in front of the police. Not only that, but he was turning the tables and accusing me of drugging him. Victoria was shaking with rage. She pointed at my face. "Stella Vance, you shameless bitch." She lunged forward to grab my hair. I quickly took a half step back, avoiding her hands, and looked straight at Liam. I said calmly, "I suggest we both take an immediate hair follicle drug test, and let the police sweep the hotel room for forensic evidence." Liam's expression changed instantly, but he quickly forced a hardened look. "This happened almost a month ago. What forensic evidence could possibly be left?" I stared him down. "If you are truly the victim here, Mr. Harrington, you should want the police to investigate this even more than I do." Liam avoided my eyes. He pulled out his phone and handed some screenshots to Detective Carter. "Officer, these are the Snapchat messages she sent to invite me to the hotel." The detective took the phone. The account name was Starry Night, and the profile picture was a selfie of me. "Hey, Liam. This Saturday at 2 p.m. Intercontinental Hotel Room, 8026. See you there. Don't keep me waiting, Stella. We can't do this. If you don't show up, I'll tell Victoria about you embezzling company funds." Seeing the screenshots, Victoria blew up again. "Not only is she a slut, she's an extortionist. Stella Vance, I will make sure your life is ruined. You will never work in this industry again." Chloe stood to the side, dabbing her tears and adding fuel to the fire. "Stella, the boss, showed the messages. Are you still going to deny it? Snapchat account is your burner. You used to borrow money from me using that exact account." She turned to Detective Carter. "Officer, is this enough proof of blackmail and seduction?" Watching their coordinated performance, I sneered inwardly. "Since Mr. Harrington has provided these screenshots, I request a full forensic investigation of the digital evidence. First, I want a subpoena for the registration email of that Snapchat account. Second, I want to verify the IP addresses and device MAC addresses used to send those messages. Third, Chloe claims I used that account to borrow money from her. I want her to show the corresponding bank transfer records." I pressed forward, my voice echoing in the room. Liam's eyes twitched. Chloe hurriedly interrupted. "Everyone knows you majored in computer science. Changing an IP address is child's play for you. Mr. Harrington, we need to take your phone back to the station for digital forensics. Detective Carter cut her off coldly, putting Liam's phone into an evidence bag. Liam opened his mouth but didn't dare to object. Victoria wasn't done. She pulled a bank statement from her bag and slammed it onto the table. Officer, this is our corporate bank statement. She pointed at a bolded line of transaction data, her voice screeching. Liam used the company account to transfer $50,000 into Stella's personal bank account. This is the sugar daddy money. The proof is right here. The executives whispered among themselves again. 50 grand? She really took it. The evidence is undeniable. Let's see how she explains this. I glanced at the statement. The account number indeed belonged to an old, rarely used bank card of mine. Mrs. Harrington, can this bank statement be handed over to the police as evidence? Of course, it's key evidence. Great, I said calmly, officer. I request an immediate freeze on this Chase bank account. Furthermore, I want to track all transaction paths and ATM withdrawal camera footage associated with this $50,000. After it was deposited, I turned my cold gaze toward Chloe. Let's see whose pocket that 50 grand actually ended up in. Chloe's breath hitched. She clenched her fists tightly, forcing herself to stay calm. Stella, you obviously withdrew that money in cash. What's the point of tracking the digital trail now? Do you think the police are stupid enough to believe you? She seemed to make up her mind about something. She reached into her bag, pulled out one last document, and handed it to the detective with a trembling hand. Officer, actually, there is one more thing. I didn't want to bring this up because it concerns a woman's dignity, but I can't let Stella keep lying. She unfolded the paper. It was an abortion consent form from New York Central Hospital. In black and white, Stella Vance was written on the patient line. The bottom right, there was a signature that looked exactly like my handwriting. Last Tuesday afternoon, Stella took a half day off. She actually went to the hospital for an abortion. Chloe wept dramatically. The baby was the boss's. She was terrified of getting caught. So she quietly terminated the pregnancy. I was worried about her, so I secretly followed her to the hospital. I managed to get a copy of this form from the nurse's desk. When she wasn't looking, the room was in shock. Didn't answer immediately. Instead, I took a deep breath and let my eyes sweep across everyone in the room. You all really went all out to paint me as the mistress, didn't you? My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone to hear. Chloe came over to grab my hand. Just confess, Stella. I will beg Mrs. Harrington to show you mercy. I slapped her hand away and looked at Detective Carter. Detective Carter, please. List all the evidence Chloe and Mr. Harrington have provided today. I raised my fingers, counting them down one by one. First, the hotel security footage and booking records under my ID. Second, the Snapchat burner account using my photo to message Mr. Harrington. Third, the bank statement showing $50,000 transferred to my account. Fourth, this abortion consent form from New York Central Hospital. I turned to Chloe and Liam, my voice rising with absolute authority. You two in front of the police. Confirm this one last time. All of this evidence involves actions taken by me personally. None of this was forged by anyone else, correct? Chloe yelled without hesitation. Of course it is you. The evidence is rock solid. What else can you say? Liam gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, she and I did those things. I am willing to testify under oath. Excellent. Wonderful. I smiled slightly, reached into my inner jacket pocket, pulled out a USB drive, and placed it next to the evidence bag. Detective Carter, please play the files on this drive. The screen flickered, and everyone in the room held their breath. The high-definition projector hummed as Detective Carter inserted my USB drive. The blue loading circle spun once, twice, and then snapped into a crisp, high-resolution video interface. The silence in the grand conference room of Harrington Media was suffocating. Victoria Harrington stood with her arms crossed, her knuckles white against her dark silk sleeves. Liam's face had gone from a mask of righteous indignation to a sickly gray shade of ash. Beside him, Chloe Sterling squeezed her eyes shut for a fraction of a second before opening them wide, forcing a posture of rigid innocence. Glowing text suddenly bloomed across my retinas, visible only to me. Viewer 99, it's Blowthrough time. Play file 01 first. Chloe's heart rate is currently 140 BPM. Viewer 302, look at the bottom right corner of Chloe's bag. She has the physical duplicate of Stella's ID right there. Viewer 708, get ready for the hospital beatdown. She really thought a forged signature on a clinic form would hold up against real digital forensics? Rookie move. I ignored the flashing comments floating in my peripheral vision, keeping my eyes fixed on the massive projector screen. "Detective Carter," I said, my voice echoing off the glass walls with ice cold
clarity.
"Please open folder 1. Hospital verification and identity theft." Carter clicked the mouse. A video file titled NYC_Central_Lobby_1012 MP4 began
To play.
The timestamp in the corner read, "Last Tuesday, 2:14 p.m." The camera captured the main reception desk of New York Central Hospital.
A
Woman walked into the frame wearing an oversized beige trench coat, dark sunglasses, and a wide-brimmed black hat. "See," Chloe shrieked, her voice cracking as she pointed a trembling finger at the screen. "That's her. That's Stella's coat. That's her body shape. She took time off work that exact afternoon." "Keep watching," I said softly. On screen, the woman leaned over the counter to fill out the paperwork. As she raised her left arm to push her sunglasses up her nose, the sleeve of her coat slipped back slightly. Captured in crisp 4K surveillance footage was a distinct, diamond-encrusted, rose gold watch. Viewer 112OH snap. The Patek Philippe 20-4 automatic. Viewer 505. Liam bought that exact watch for Chloe 3 months ago.
check the serial logs.
"Detective Carter," I said, stepping closer to the screen. "I am a low-level senior associate. My monthly base salary is $6,500. That watch on the woman's wrist is a Patek Philippe Ref 7300, retailing at $28,000. I have never owned such a watch. But if you look at Chloe Sterling's wrist right now." Every head in the room snapped toward Chloe. Chloe instinctively pulled her left hand back, jamming it into the pocket of her tailored trousers. Her face drained of all color. That proves nothing," Chloe stuttered, her eyes darting frantically toward Liam. "Anyone could wear a counterfeit watch. Stella could have borrowed
it."
"Let's look at the next file," I said calmly. "File 01_B, medical records and forensic signature comparison." A document split screen appeared. On the left was the abortion consent form Chloe had handed to the police moments ago, featuring a shaky signature spelling, "Stella Vance." On the right was an official, certified medical file from New York Central Hospital, stamped by the chief of medicine and notarized that very morning. "As you can see," Detective Carter read aloud, his eyes sharpening as he scanned the screen, "Ms. Stella Vance was never admitted to New York Central Hospital on the afternoon of Tuesday the 12th. Furthermore, official lab results from her annual corporate health screen, conducted 2 weeks ago, confirmed she has never been pregnant." Carter paused, turning a piercing gaze toward Chloe.
More importantly, the
hospital's IT security department flagged an unauthorized request for blank consent forms made from an IP address registered to a home network under the name of Chloe Sterling. "That's a lie. She hacked me," Chloe screamed, her voice soaring into a shrill register. "She's a computer science major. She set me up. She forged those IP logs." "Did I also forge the video of you entering the hospital, Chloe?" I asked, taking a slow, measured step toward her. "Or did I forge the receptionist's statement?" I clicked the remote control in my hand. An audio recording began to play through the conference room's surround sound speakers. "Yes, officer," a receptionist's voice echoed clearly. A woman matching Chloe Sterling's description came in last Tuesday. She offered me $2,000 in cash to let her slip a blank patient form out of the tray and print a copy of a random consent template. I refused, but she took a picture of a blank form. When I stepped away to answer the phone, I filed an internal incident report. Immediately, the room collapsed into absolute chaos. "You lunatic," Victoria Harrington roared, wheeling around to glare at Chloe. "You dragged me into this office, lied to my face, and tried to make me destroy an innocent employee?" "Mrs. Harrington, wait. Listen to me." Chloe stumbled backward, her heels
catching on the carpet.
She reached out to grab Liam's arm.
"Liam, tell her."
"Tell her the truth. Tell her Stella was the one." Liam Harrington looked like a man standing before an execution squad.
Sweat
poured down his temples, soaking his crisp white collar. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Viewer 44, watch out. The scumbag CEO is about to throw Chloe under the bus to save his own skin. Viewer 809, yes. Look at his eyes. He's weighing his prenuptial agreement against his mistress. Viewer 612, push him, Stella.
Force
him to choose. I folded my arms and looked at Liam with cool detachment. "Mr. Harrington, you testified under oath to Detective Carter just 5 minutes ago that I seduced you, blackmailed you, and drugged you in room 802 of the Intercontinental Hotel. Are you sticking to that statement? Liam looked at his wife's furious, venomous glare, then at Detective Carter, who had already unclipped a pair of steel handcuffs from his belt. Liam's spirit broke instantly.
No.
Liam yelled, shoving Chloe away from him so violently she nearly crashed into the conference table.
No. You was lied to.
Victoria, baby, listen to me. Chloe set the whole thing up. She threatened me. Liam. Chloe gasped, her eyes wide with total shock and horror. How could you? She did. Liam shouted, his voice trembling with desperation as he backed toward the corner of the room. Chloe brought me the photos. She told me Stella was planning to leak company secrets to our rivals. She said if I didn't go along with framing Stella, she would destroy my marriage by telling Victoria that you've been sleeping with Chloe for the past 18 months? Victoria asked, her voice dropping to a terrifying, quiet whisper. Liam froze. Victoria walked slowly toward her husband. Her hand snapped out like a whip, landing another resounding slap across Liam's face that rattled the glass walls. You sniveling, pathetic coward, Victoria spat, her voice laced with pure
toxicity.
You thought you could mess around with a cheap entry-level snake, drag my family's name through the mud, frame a top performer, and walk away clean? Mrs. Harrington, Detective Carter interrupted sternly, stepping between Victoria and Liam. I need everyone to remain calm. We are far from finished. Carter turned back to the projector screen, his face grim. Ms. Vance, proceed with the rest of your files. With pleasure, Detective, I said. I clicked to folder 2, financial extortion and digital fingerprints. Let's address the Snapchat messages and the $50,000 corporate bank transfer, I said, turning to address the gathered board members and executives, who were watching the drama unfold in stunned silence. The screen shifted to a complex digital forensic breakdown provided by a third-party cybersecurity firm I had hired 2 days prior. Viewer 221. Here comes the technical knockout. Show them the MAC addresses. Viewer 550. Chloe really thought using a VPN on a burner phone would hide her identity from a CS honors grad. Hilarious. The burner account Starry Night was created 6 weeks ago, I explained, highlighting lines of code on the screen. While the user utilized a local VPN to mask their location, they failed to clear the device hardware identifiers. The unique IMEI number of the phone that created and logged into Starry Night belongs to an iPhone 14 Pro Max, serial number FK2L9011X. I looked directly at Chloe. That is the exact serial number of your company-issued mobile phone, Chloe. The network logs show that every single message sent to Mr. Harrington demanding money and inviting him to the hotel was sent from inside your apartment on Elm Street. That's impossible, Chloe screamed, her fingernails digging into her
palms.
You modified the logs. A subpoena served to Apple and Verizon will confirm those logs within 2 hours, Detective Carter noted dryly, writing notes on his pad. Go on, Ms. Vance. Now, as for the $50,000, I continued, bringing up a bank transaction matrix. Mrs. Harrington presented a bank statement showing $50,000 transferred from Harrington Media's accounts to my rarely used Chase account. I glanced over at the HR director, Mr. Davis, who was quietly edging toward the back exit of the conference room. Viewer 888 warning. HR Director Davis is trying to escape. He received a $100,000 bribe from Chloe to bypass internal auditing. Viewer 334, lock the
doors.
Don't let the rat leave. Mr. Davis, I called out loudly, stopping him dead in his tracks. Where are you going? Don't you want to see how your HR department managed to approve a duplicate debit card issuance under my name without my knowledge? Davis stiffened, his hand hovering over the door handle. I was just going to call security to secure the floor, Ms. Vance. Security is already here, Detective Carter said coldly. Sit down, Mr. Davis. Davis swallowed hard and slowly walked back to his chair. I pressed a button on the remote. High-definition footage from a Chase Bank drive-through ATM on 5th Avenue played on the screen. The video was dated 3 weeks ago. A sleek red Audi pulled up to the machine. A woman wearing heavy makeup and dark scarf lowered the window, tapped a stolen debit card, entered a PIN, and processed a cash withdrawal of $10,000, the daily maximum limit, before executing a wire transfer of the remaining $40,000 to an offshore shell account named Sterling Logistics LLC. The camera captured the license plate of the red Audi with absolute clarity. New York, 773, KLL. That red Audi is registered to Chloe Sterling, I said, my tone as steady as a beating drum. She stole my physical ID card from my desk drawer during a late-night shift, used it to request a replacement debit card from Chase Bank, intercepted the mail in our office mailroom, and then used Liam Harrington's illegal corporate transfer to frame me for embezzlement. Chloe's knees buckled. She slammed into the side of the conference table, knocking over a glass of water. The liquid spilled across the polished mahogany surface, soaking the scattered photos of the affair, the very photos she had thrown in my face less than 30 minutes ago. You, Chloe whispered, staring at me with a mix of utter hatred and primal terror. You knew everything from the beginning. I knew the moment my ID vanished from my desk 3 weeks ago. Chloe, I lied. Smoothly, keeping the secret of my glowing bullet chat system hidden deep within my mind. You thought you were playing a high-stakes game of corporate chess, but you were just leaving a trail of blood and digital footprints behind every step you took. Viewer 1000. Revenge is a dish best served in 4K. Viewer 402. Look at the CEO's wife. She's ready to execute both of them. Victoria Harrington stood up slowly. Her wrath was no longer a blind storm directed at me. It had sharpened into a lethal, surgical weapon targeted entirely at her husband and his mistress. Detective Carter, Victoria said, her voice dripping with venom. I am the majority shareholder of Harrington Media. My father owns 70% of the board seats. As of this exact second, Liam Harrington is removed from his position as CEO for embezzlement, gross misconduct, and breach of fiduciary duty. Victoria, please. Liam fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he reached for her coat. I was tricked. She seduced me. She drugged me. Touch me, and I'll have my lawyer strip you down to the shirt on your back. Before nightfall, Victoria hissed, stepping back as if he were a poisonous viper. You will serve time in federal prison for corporate fraud. She turned her sharp gaze to Chloe, who was hyperventilating on the floor. And as for you, Victoria spat. You tried to use me as your personal hitman to clear your path to a management position. You slapped my company, you framed my best employee, and you slept with my trash of a husband in my own hotel chain.
I
will spend every penny I own to ensure you rot in a maximum security cell for the next 20 years. Detective Carter stepped forward, signaling to his partner. Chloe Sterling, Liam Harrington, Carter said, pulling out 2 sets of handcuffs. You are under arrest for identity theft, criminal conspiracy, corporate embezzlement, filing false police reports, and forgery. You have the right to remain silent. As the police officers snapped the steel cuffs around Chloe's and Liam's wrists, the conference room fell into a dead, heavy silence. Chloe's tear-stained face was twisted in agony.
As she was dragged past my
chair, she suddenly lunged at me, her cuffed hands swinging wildly before the junior officer slammed her against the wall. You bitch! Chloe screamed, her hair disheveled, sweat running down her neck. You ruined my life. I was supposed to be the manager. I worked harder than you. You acted so innocent, but you're a monster. A monster? I stood up slowly, looking down at her from my full height. I didn't ruin your life, Chloe. I whispered softly, so only she could hear. You did that the moment you decided to steal my hard work, my identity, and my
honor.
You wanted my life? Now you can have my justice. Viewer 777, damn. Chills. Viewer 509. Get her out of here. Now sweep up the rest of the garbage. As the police hauled Liam and Chloe down the hallway, amidst the gasps and frantic smartphone filming of dozens of employees standing outside, Victoria Harrington turned to face me. The fiery rage in her eyes had been replaced by a deep, hollow exhaustion mixed with a profound sense of embarrassment. Ms. Vance, Victoria said, stepping forward. I owe you a sincere apology. I was blinded by rage. I allowed myself to be manipulated by those 2 vipers. She glanced down at her hand, which had struck my face earlier that morning. The slap, the accusations. I was entirely in the wrong, Victoria said. Quietly, her proud posture slumping slightly. Name your compensation.
A
promotion, a transfer, a cash settlement, anything you want to make this right. Before I could answer, a bright crimson box flashed directly in front of my vision. System alert. Critical decision point. Option A, accept a lump sum payout, $500,000, and resign immediately. Safe, but leaves corporate enemies active. Option B, demand Liam's vacant executive seat, execute a full audit of the HR and financial departments, and purge the remaining conspirators. High reward / complete dominance. Viewer 901, option B. Option B, we want blood. Viewer 311, Davis is still standing in the room. Don't let him slip away.
Take.
Over the department. I took a deep breath, letting the system message fade from my sight, and looked Victoria straight in the eye. Mrs. Harrington, I don't want a cash settlement to quietly sweep this under the rug, I said firmly. I love this company. I spent 3 years building the marketing architecture that doubled your quarterly revenue. I was framed because it was promotion season and because certain people in this building wanted a puppet in the department manager seat. I turned my head, my eyes locking directly onto HR Director Davis, who broke into a cold sweat. If you want to make this right, Mrs. Harrington, I continued, I want 3 things. Name them, Victoria said without hesitation. First, an immediate, independent audit of the Human Resources Department, starting with Mr. Davis's personal bank accounts and internal communication logs. Davis's face turned white as paper. Ms. Vance, that is entirely out of line.
I
had no part in Chloe's scheme. Second, I ignored Davis completely. I want full executive authority as the newly appointed Vice President of Marketing and Strategy, reporting directly to you and the board. The remaining executives in the room gasped. Bypassing department manager straight to vice president was unprecedented for someone my age. Victoria didn't even blink. Consider it done. And the third thing? Third, I smiled coldly. I want a press release issued by Harrington Media before 5 p.m. today, detailing the full exoneration of my name and the criminal arrest of Liam Harrington and Chloe Sterling. I want my reputation restored in every major news outlet in New York. Victoria looked at me for a long, silent moment. Then, slowly, a faint, impressed smile touched her lips. You have a sharper instinct than my ex-husband ever possessed, Victoria said.
smoothly.
Mr. Davis. Davis jumped as if he had been shot. Why, yes, Mrs. Harrington. Hand over your corporate access badge and your laptop to security right now. Victoria ordered coldly. You are suspended pending a full forensic investigation. If Ms. Vance finds a single penny of bribe money in your logs, you'll be sharing a cell block with Liam. 2 corporate security guards immediately stepped up, flanking Davis and stripping the badge from his neck before escorting him out of the room. The conference room was suddenly quiet. The air smelled of metallic ozone, spilled water, and victory. Viewer 1000, mission accomplished. Quest complete. Viewer 888, level up. Vice President Stella Vance has entered the server. Viewer 404. Wait, guys, look at the hallway outside. Who is that man in the dark suit? I frowned slightly as a new comment caught my eye. I turned my head toward the glass walls of the conference room. Standing amidst the crowd of stunned employees was a tall man in a flawlessly tailored charcoal suit. He had sharp, angular features, striking dark eyes, and carried an aura of quiet, terrifying authority. When our eyes met through the glass, he tilted his crystal glass of water toward me in a subtle toast, a faint, intriguing smirk playing on his lips. Glowing text flashed in gold across my retinas. System alert. New character detected. Name: Julian Vance / alias The Ghost. Shareholder of Harrington Media. Threat level: extreme. Relationship to host: secret half-brother / true heir to the Vance conglomerate. My heart skipped a beat. Vance? My mind reeled as the golden system text hung in the air before dissolving into thin air. Julian Vance? Secret half-brother? I had been raised in a single-parent household by my mother, who worked 2 jobs to put me through computer science school. She had always refused to talk about my father, taking his identity to her grave 3 years ago. I had assumed he was just some deadbeat who abandoned us. Viewer 502. WHOA. The lore is expanding. Viewer 711. Julian Vance.
He
controls 30% of the offshore shares in Harrington Media. Viewer 909. He's been watching Chloe and Liam's corruption for months.
He was
about to execute a hostile takeover today until Stella beat him to the punch. The man in the charcoal suit turned smoothly on his heel and walked toward the executive elevators, his long stride effortless and commanding. Ms. Vance. Victoria's voice pulled me back to reality. Are you alright? I'm fine, Mrs. Harrington, I said quickly, regaining my composure. Just processing the events of the morning. Understandable, Victoria said, stepping closer and extending her hand.
The
board meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m. I will officially announce your appointment as vice president then. Take the next few hours to collect yourself. Move into the corner office on the 45th floor and clean up any remaining mess. Thank you, Mrs. Harrington. I won't disappoint you. I shook her hand firmly. As she turned to give orders to her legal team, I stepped out of the conference room. The floor was dead silent as I walked down the central corridor. The very colleagues who had looked at me with disgust and whispered insults 20 minutes ago now cowered in their cubicles, averting their eyes or offering terrified, nervous smiles. I didn't care about their shallow opinions. In the corporate world, respect isn't given. It is extracted through absolute power and unassailable victory. I walked into Chloe's former office, which was now mine, and closed the blinds. I sat down in the leather executive chair, leaning back and rubbing my temples. The glowing bullet chat interface flickered back to life, hovering gently in the quiet room. Viewer 101 host, you need to check Chloe's bottom desk drawer. Viewer 202. Yes. Behind the false panel, she kept a physical ledger of all her blackmail material. Viewer 404. She wasn't just working with Liam. She was taking orders from someone outside the company. My eyes narrowed. I immediately pulled open the bottom drawer of the mahogany
desk.
I dumped out the files, reached into the back, and felt along the wooden
Paneling. Click.
A false bottom popped open. Inside lay a black leather-bound notebook and a encrypted flash drive. I opened the notebook. Page after page was filled with Chloe's meticulous, manic handwriting. It contained blackmail details on half the executive team, financial payouts, and meeting logs with a contact codenamed JV. Julian Vance. My heart hammered against my ribs. I flipped to the latest entry, dated just 4 days ago. JV promised that once Stella is framed and fired, and Liam is ruined by the financial scandal, his investment firm will trigger the emergency buyout clause. I will get 5% equity in the restructured company and the VP seat. All I have to do is make sure Stella takes the fall completely. I let out a long, cold breath. Chloe wasn't just a bitter rival competing for promotion. She was a Trojan horse planted by Julian Vance to wreck Harrington Media from the inside out, destroy my professional reputation, and use my ruined name as collateral damage. In a high-stakes corporate takeover. Why me? Why did Julian Vance target me specifically? Viewer 777. Because of the Vance family trust. Viewer 303. Your biological father left 51% of the Vance global conglomerate shares to his eldest daughter, you. Viewer 811. Julian can't claim his full inheritance unless you are legally disqualified, imprisoned, or disgraced. The truth hit me like a physical blow. My mother hadn't been abandoned by a deadbeat. She had fled from a ruthless, mega-wealthy dynasty to protect me from the vicious internal bloodbaths of the Vance family. And now, the family empire had tracked me down. Suddenly, a crisp knock sounded on my office door. I closed the notebook, slipped it into my blazer pocket, and smoothed down my
jacket.
Come in, I said calmly. The door clicked open. Standing in the doorway was Julian Vance himself. Up close, his presence was overwhelming. He held a leather folder under his arm, his dark eyes assessing me with a cold, analytical intensity that sent a chill down my spine. Ms. Vance, Julian said, his voice deep, smooth, and entirely devoid of emotion. Or should I say, Vice President Vance. Mr. Vance, I replied, sitting back in my chair and crossing my arms, showing no fear. To what do I owe the honor of a visit from the ghost shareholder? Julian's eyes flickered with a brief flash of surprise, but he quickly masked it. Behind an enigmatic smile, he walked into the room, closing the door softly. Behind him, you know who I am, Julian murmured, stepping up to my desk. Impressive. You're sharper than your mother was. Keep my mother's name out of your mouth, I snapped, my eyes flashing with dangerous anger. Julian chuckled softly, pulling out a chair and sitting down opposite me without waiting for an invitation. You think you won today, Stella, Julian said, leaning forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You think destroying a pathetic middle manager like Chloe and a weak-willed idiot like Liam makes you queen of the chessboard? I think I cleared the trash out of my office, I replied coldly. And I think you just lost your favorite little pawn. Julian didn't flinch. Instead, He opened the leather folder he carried and laid a document on my desk. Chloe was a disposable tool, Julian said dismissively. She was greedy, stupid, and easily manipulated by a few luxury handbags and promises she could never keep. But you have Vance blood in your veins. You proved that. Today. I looked down at the document on the table. It was a legal settlement and share transfer agreement. What is this? I asked. A surrender offer, Julian said smoothly. Sign over your claim to the Vance family trust, and I will walk away from Harrington Media. I will give you $10 million in tax-free cash, a penthouse in Manhattan, and you can keep your cozy little VP title here forever. You live a rich, quiet life, and I take control of Vance Global. Viewer 999, don't sign it. It's a trap. Viewer 102, if you sign that, he will trigger a tax evasion lawsuit that puts you in prison forever. Viewer 404, look at page 4, paragraph 3. There is a hidden indemnity clause. I didn't even need the bullet chat to tell me he was lying. A man who used Chloe Sterling to try to ruin my life wouldn't hand me $10 million out of brotherly love. I picked up the document, looked Julian straight in the eyes, and slowly tore it in half. Threep. I tore it again and again until the papers fell onto the desk in a shower of white confetti. I don't sell my birthright to snakes, Julian, I said, my voice echoing with absolute defiance. You want Vance Global? Come and take it from me. Julian's smile vanished completely. His eyes turned dark, lethal, and colder. Then ice. He stood up slowly, buttoning his jacket. You have your father's pride, Julian whispered coldly. It's a shame. Pride is a very painful way to die in New York. We'll see who dies first, I replied. Julian turned and walked out of the office, closing the door with a quiet, ominous click. System notice. Main quest updated. Target. Neutralize Julian Vance and secure Vance Global, 51% controlling interest. Current status. Under attack. Warning. Julian Vance has triggered emergency regulatory audits against Harrington Media. No sooner had Julian left than my desk phone rang furiously. I picked it up.
Stella Vance. Stella.
Get up to the boardroom right now. Victoria's panicked voice came through the speaker. The SEC and the Department of Justice just raided our server rooms. Someone filed an anonymous report alleging massive corporate tax, fraud, and money laundering. I'm on my way, I said, my eyes blazing with fierce determination. Julian had moved fast. The moment I rejected his surrender offer, he pulled the trigger on his scorched earth contingency plan. He was going to drag Harrington Media into a federal investigation, crash the stock price, and buy up the remaining shares at pennies on the dollar during the panic. I grabbed the flash drive I'd pulled from Chloe's secret desk panel and ran out of the office toward the executive elevator. When I stepped into the 50th floor boardroom, the scene was sheer pandemonium. A dozen federal agents in yellow-lettered jackets were packing physical hard drives into boxes. Victoria Harrington was screaming at her chief legal counsel, while several board members were on their phones with brokers, watching Harrington Media's stock price plunge 6% in real time on the television monitors. This is madness, Victoria shouted, her hands shaking as she spotted me.
Stella.
Someone leaked internal accounting logs from 3 years ago. They show off-book accounts in the Cayman Islands registered under my late father's name. Those logs were forged by Liam and Chloe under Julian Vance's instructions. I announced loudly, stepping into the middle of the room. The federal lead agent, a stern woman with a silver badge pinned to her belt, turned to face me. Who are you? I am Stella Vance, Vice President of Marketing and Strategy, I said, pulling the flash drive from my pocket. And I hold the master cryptographic keys to Harrington Media's internal servers, as well as the unedited ledger of the conspiracy. The agent frowned. We received a verified digital signature showing these offshore accounts belong to the executive board. Verified by whom? I asked, stepping up to the master presentation console and plugging in Chloe's flash drive. By an HR director who was fired 2 hours ago for taking bribes? Or by Julian Vance's proxy firms? Viewer 333. Run the decrypt script. Viewer 606. Show them the IP trail, connecting the SEC leak directly to Julian's private server in Switzerland. My hands flew across the keyboard. As a computer science graduate who had built the company's data security architecture, navigating the corporate backend was second nature to me. Lines of green terminal code cascaded down the wall-sized monitors. Agent, I said, pointing to the screen as the decryption completed.
The
offshore accounts in question were opened 16 months ago using stolen corporate credentials. Look at the IP routing for the registration of those Cayman accounts. The screen displayed a global trace map. The connection pinged from New York, routed through a proxy server in Frankfurt, and terminated at a private IP address. Vance Global Financial Holdings, Zurich. Julian Vance created those fake money laundering trails to frame Victoria Harrington's father, I explained, turning to the federal agents.
he
Deliberately leaked them to your agency 20 minutes ago to trigger a stock
crash.
He is currently sitting in a trading firm down the street, waiting to buy up 30% of Harrington Media's floating stock the second it hits bottom. The lead agent stared at the screen, her eyes wide as the digital evidence assembled itself into an airtight case of market manipulation and federal obstruction. Trace those trade orders, the agent commanded her deputy immediately. Find out if Vance Global is placing buy-short orders on Harrington stock right now. 30 seconds later, the deputy looked up from his tablet, wide-eyed.
Mom.
Vance Global's subsidiary just placed a $100 million short buy order on our stock through the dark pool. That's federal market manipulation, the lead agent said, her voice dropping into an icy register. Freeze those trading accounts immediately. Issue an emergency arrest warrant for Julian Vance. Victoria Harrington gasped, staring at me as if I were a miracle worker. The board members burst into frantic cheers as the SEC agents immediately pivoted, packing up their boxes and marching out to intercept Julian's financial
raid.
Viewer 1000. Absolute Cinema. Viewer 707, the reverse Uno card of the century. Viewer 404, look at the stock price. It's bouncing back up. Victoria walked over to me, her hands gripping my shoulders tightly. Tears of relief welled in her eyes. You saved us, Victoria whispered, her voice trembling. You saved my father's
legacy, Stella. I
don't even know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, Victoria, I said, a dangerous, cold smile touching my lips. Just make sure the board gives me full voting proxy for the upcoming Vance Global Shareholder Emergency Summit tomorrow morning. Victoria didn't hesitate for a single second. You have my proxy. You have the entire board's proxy. Go take what is yours. The next morning, 9 a.m., the grand auditorium of the Vance Global Tower on Wall Street was packed with hundreds of journalists, billionaire investors, and institutional board members. The air was heavy with tension. Rumors of the SEC raid, the arrest of Liam Harrington, and the market manipulation charges against Julian Vance had sent shockwaves through the financial capital of the world. Sitting at the high center of the stage behind a row of microphones was Julian Vance. He was flanked by a team of 10 high-priced defense attorneys. Despite the federal storm brewing around him, Julian maintained a face of marble composure. He was preparing to execute a forced corporate vote to consolidate his control over Vance Global before the SEC warrants could be fully processed. Quiet down, Julian's chief attorney called out, tapping the microphone. We are ready to commence the emergency shareholder vote for the chairmanship of Vance Global. As holder of 49% of voting shares, Mr. Julian Vance moves to shut down floor debate and execute the succession. Bang! The massive double mahogany doors at the back of the auditorium slammed open. Every camera lens in the room swung around simultaneously. Flashes began to explode like lightning strikes. I walked down the central aisle. I was wearing a sharp, custom-tailored white suit, high heels that clicked like military precision against the marble floor, and my mother's silver star necklace resting against my collarbone. Flanking me on my left was Detective Carter and a team of federal marshals. Flanking me on my right was Victoria Harrington and the top legal team in New York. Viewer 1000. All hail the Queen. Viewer 909. She is wearing the white suit. Absolute power move. Viewer 505. Look at Julian's face. He realizes his 49% is useless against her. Who authorized this disruption? Julian's attorney shouted into the microphone. Security, escort these people out. Touch her and you'll be arrested for federal obstruction, Detective Carter barked, his hand resting on his sidearm. The corporate security guards immediately backed down. I walked right up to the stage, stopping at the podium directly opposite Julian. Julian stood up slowly. For the first time, the icy calm in his eyes had cracked, replaced by a dark, volatile fury. Stella, Julian hissed under his breath. You are trespassing on private corporate property. I don't trespass on property I own, Julian, I said, my voice projecting clearly through the hall, amplified by the dozens of media microphones pointed at my face. I pulled a thick, gold-embossed legal document from my briefcase and slammed it onto the podium. As the eldest biological daughter of Alexander Vance, I announced, my voice ringing out with supreme authority, I officially present the original, unsealed, last will and testament of the founder of Vance Global, validated by the Supreme Court of New York this morning. The auditorium erupted into absolute bedlam. Reporters stood on their chairs, cameras flashing frantically. That will is a forgery, Julian's lawyer screamed. The DNA verification and cryptographic signature were verified by federal authorities 3 hours ago, I replied coldly. Under Section 4 of the Vance Family Trust, 51% of all voting shares pass directly to me. Combined with the proxy votes of Harrington Media, I hold a 65% absolute majority. Julian's face went completely deathly pale. His hands gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. You? Julian whispered, his voice trembling with a terrifying blend of rage and defeat. You took everything. No, Julian, I said, leaning in close across the podium, my voice dropping to a icy whisper that cut through his soul. I didn't take anything. You tried to frame an innocent woman, steal a company, and destroy my life using a pathetic mistress and a traitorous CEO. You dug your own grave. I just handed you the shovel. Detective Carter stepped up onto the stage, pulling a fresh federal arrest warrant from his jacket. Julian Vance, Carter said sternly. You are under arrest for federal market manipulation, corporate espionage, attempted bribery, and conspiracy to commit frame-up extortion. Stand up and put your hands behind your back. Julian looked around the room. The cameras were recording his every breath.
The
board members who had kissed his feet an hour ago turned their backs on him.
his
High-priced lawyers stepped away, whispering amongst themselves, already abandoning a sinking ship. Slowly, helplessly, Julian Vance raised his hands. The steel handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists with a loud, final sound. As the marshals led Julian down the center aisle, the very aisle I had just walked down in triumph, he turned his head back to look at me one last time. I didn't offer him a smile. I didn't offer him pity. I simply stood at the high podium, looking down at him with the cold, absolute dominance of a true sovereign. System notice. Main quest complete. Vance Global secured, 65% controlling interest. Enemies eradicated. Chloe Sterling, prison. Liam Harrington, bankrupt/prison. Julian Vance, federal custody. Host status. Chairman and CEO of Vance Global/majority owner of Harrington Media. System shutting down. User has achieved total dominance. The glowing chat text in front of my eyes began to flicker, fading slowly into bright golden light before disappearing completely. I didn't need the bullet chat anymore. The game was over. I had won. 6 months later, the top floor of the Vance Global Tower in Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows offered a breathtaking, panoramic view of the New York skyline stretching out under a clear, brilliant blue sky. I stood by the window, holding a warm cup of dark coffee. My reflection in the glass showed a woman who no longer looked like the hesitant, low-level associate who had stepped into an office trap 6 months ago. I was stronger, colder, sharper, and utterly unshakable. A soft knock sounded on the heavy door of my master office. Come in, I said softly. My executive assistant walked in, holding a slim leather tablet. Good morning, Chairman Vance, she said respectfully. Here is your morning briefing. Give me the highlights, I said, taking a sip of coffee. First, the quarterly earnings report for Vance Global and Harrington Media was released at 8 a.m. Stock prices are up 14%, reaching an all-time high. I nodded faintly. And the legal proceedings? Liam Harrington was sentenced yesterday to 12 years in federal prison for corporate fraud and embezzlement. His assets have been completely liquidated to pay restitution to Harrington Media. And Chloe Sterling? I asked, my tone flat. Chloe's trial concluded this morning, the assistant reported.
she was found
Guilty on all counts: identity theft, criminal framing, perjury, and conspiracy. She received 15 years without the possibility of parole. The assistant hesitated for a moment before adding. Her legal team reached out one last time yesterday, asking if you would be willing to visit her in prison or accept a written letter of apology. I looked out at the bustling city below, at the skyscrapers, the river, the endless horizon of absolute power and possibility. Tell our legal team, I said calmly, turning back to my mahogany desk, that I don't read mail from convicts. Understood, ma'am. The assistant smiled, bowing her head slightly.
The
Executive board is waiting in the main conference room for the international expansion meeting. Tell them I'll be right there. I set my coffee cup down, picked up my leather executive folder, and walked
toward the door.
As I reached out to open it, a faint, momentary golden glow flickered in the corner of my vision, a soft, fleeting whisper from the system that had started it.
All.
System final message, the world is yours, Stella Vance.
Rule it well.
I smiled softly, stepped out of the office, and walked into my empire.